It smells a little bit like an old pub carpet. Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going back to basics. You can leave your craft beer at the door. It's definitely real ale time. Now, don't get me wrong, I love beer of all varieties, craft, real, trad, whatever you want to call them. And whilst I do love them all, I feel like I've not had any new trad, or at least new to me trad, in a while. And whilst there's been some on the channel, it's all stuff I've had fairly recently. However, today we're going to change that up with this from Timothy Taylor's up in North Yorkshire. It is their Landlord Dark, which I've heard a few people say pretty positive things about, but yeah, as I say, for me, not one I've had before. What is it exactly? Well, on the front of it, it just says rich, smooth, dark ale at 4.1%. And I do happen to know that Timothy Taylor's Landlord Regular is a pale ale, so I'm guessing that this is probably a pale with some dark malt in it. Think, I guess, the origin of the black IPA or something along those lines. But yeah, should be interesting to say the least. Let's get into it, shall we? Before we do, here is a quick look at the bottle. I guess pretty trad. Timothy Taylor's Landlord Dark. It's got some nice, can't really see the, there you go, the ABV's there. Looks kind of reflective, metallic, golden labelling. Nice bit at the top there. Load of info on the back, which we'll get into a bit later. It is vegan friendly, as you can see. 2.1 UK units in this bottle. There's the bit at the top. What does that say? 1858 Championship beers. There you go. Let's do it. Nice malty aroma on opening. In the glass then, I mean, it's a properly dark beer. Thick, I'll be honest, a bit aerated, kind of toffee coloured head. Don't expect that to stick around too long. It's low enough ABV, but I just don't think the conditioning is probably quite there on this in bottle form. If I hold it up to the light though, you can see through it, but only just. It really, yeah, for a relatively sessionable 4-ish% beer, that is properly dark. I mean, you'd say it was a very strong porter, and even, well, I've seen people pass off lighter stouts than that in recent years, if I'm honest. So, yeah, thumbs up on that from me. But otherwise, looks like a very pleasant pint. And actually, to say it's vegan friendly, it's pretty clear. It's very clear, in fact, from what you can see through. So, yeah, should be a good one. Right then, aromas. It smells a little bit like an old pub carpet. I don't mean the staleness or the grubby, dusty, slightly dirty tones that you kind of immediately associate with that. But pub carpets and drip trays and anything in a pub really gets a lot of different beer on it at some point in its life, and this is a bit pale, it's a bit hoppy, it's a bit dark, it's a bit malty, it's a bit of a mishmash, if I'm honest. The aroma, whilst not unappealing, in a blind test I'd be a bit confused as to what I was about to drink. Let me put it that way. It doesn't really have a discerned specific style about its aroma. But what notes can I pick up? Well, there's a very traditional hop base in there. It's a bit earthy, it's not dank, it's not piney, it's just a bit, well, wet and dreary, if I'm honest. I assume it's Fuggles hop or something very similar. It's got that very traditional note to it. And once you get past that, you start to pick out some more fresh, lightly floral, a bit meadow, kind of the nice countryside rather than the dank, boggy bit we were just talking about. Notes that, again, probably a very trad hop, but something a bit more zesty, a bit more refreshing. Weirdly, fresh flower meadows come to mind. I don't know why. It doesn't smell like fabric softener, but you know what I mean. And the malt base, it's an intertwine. It's a bit toffee, it's a bit caramel, it's a bit chocolate. And what it does remind me of, anyone who's ever had Thornton's toffee, they do chocolate covered ones. It smells like that box. It really does. But as I say, with some slightly more earthy hop tones to go along with it, hence slightly confused nature. But anyway, that's enough waffling on. Let's do it, shall we? Cheers. I'm smiling because it's both incredibly familiar. There's nothing new about this beer in terms of approach or ingredient or anything, as far as I can tell. It's very much traditional British ale, but It's been that long since I've had a pint of it that's A, been good, and B, been just different enough to kind of scratch that exploratory beer itch that, yeah, I'm having quite a nice time. What I said about the aroma is absolutely true in this. It's a bit confused, it's a bit contrived, it's a little bit earthy, mossy, green, not quite dank, but a little bit damp almost. And that comes in with a big heap of hop bitterness up front and at the back, which is very reminiscent really of the traditional British pale. It is a traditional British pale, but mixed in through all of that is this nice, sweet, chocolate, toffee, luxurious to a degree, but still very sessionable malt profile that actually makes this not a bad beer at all. Sometimes we talk about beers having a lot of hop profile, a lot of bitterness, a lot of malt base, and it all works together to create a balanced beer. I'm not sure I'd say that was true of this one, but at the very least, it does give you more than one thing to concentrate on. Right then, quick top to bottom taste test, and we'll take a look at the bottle and see if there's anything we should have known before drinking it. So initially, as I said before, bitter up front. It's not intense, it's a bit just slight puckering really. A little bit of carbonation on the front of the tongue. Carbonation level on this beer, by the way, spot on for the style for me. It's there, it's present, it's doing the job to transport the flavours around your mouth, but other than that, it's keeping itself pretty low key. And then, second phase, we're starting to get that traditional British pale. It's a touch grassy, it's a touch floral, there's a bit of citrus in there, but it's tenuous, it's not big, it's not juicy, it's almost dried, almost citrus peel almost. And then as we get to that mid phase, a lot of big mineral qualities, slightly earthy still, the introduction of some chocolate, a bit of toffee, a bit of caramel, just a few roastier malt flavours. It's not big roast this, there's no coffee, there's no licorice, but there's just some subtle, as I say, caramel, toffee, chocolate, just running all the way through. And then as it gets to the back, bitterness hits back in. Huge drying sensation, really bitter, really dry. Moisture comes rushing to your mouth from other parts of the body because that much has been sucked away by the dry, hoppy nature of this beer. And then as it all starts to chill out, things return to normal, and you're left with this almost sweetened, kind of almost a honey-esque hop finish that's blending with that caramel and a bit of chocolate just to sit back and appreciate. It's not deep, it's not rich, it's not zesty, it's not acidic. It's actually, despite what I said before, it is pretty well balanced. It just takes the time for that balance to find itself towards the end of the beer and in the end of the kind of the tasting experience. Whereas up front, well, there's quite a lot going on, if I'm honest. But actually, I could sink a few pints of those, so yeah, can't be bad. Right then. Let's take a look at the bottle. On the front then, 1858 Championship beers. I've just noticed actually they didn't all fit in the glass, so I get a little top up. Timothy Taylor's Landlord Dark, Rich Smooth Dark Ale, ABV 4.1%. This is best before September this year. That's about 4 or 5 months away, so yeah, not bad. And then on the back it says Landlord Dark. Landlord Dark originates from the multi-award-winning Landlord Pale Ale, but brewed with caramelized sugars to give a rich yet light and drinkable dark ale. This perfectly balanced mellow beer has body and depth. It has a fruity, toasted aroma with hints of chocolate, citrus, and roasted malts on the tongue, a darker shade of pale. The malts are Golden Promise, the hops are Fuggles, Styrian Goldings, and Goldings. There you go, it's about as trad as you can get. All for that taste of Taylor's. Interestingly, it's caramelized sugar that gives this its colour, and that probably goes some way to explaining why you don't get that roasty intensity with no coffee or licorice notes, is because they don't exist. There is no roasted malt in it really, or if there is, there's not a lot. It's just, yeah, a load of caramelized sugar to get that colour. In general, I'm not the biggest fan of beers that do that. I know of a couple of others. The one that really comes to mind is Midnight Owl from Castle Rock. It's basically their Screech Owl Hoppy Pale with a load of treacle in it. Basically the same thing they're doing here. And, well, I always think, oh, maybe that kind of dark edition will add some balance to it, and really ends up just a bit of a mess. I wouldn't say that this was a mess. because I'm enjoying it, but at the same time, it's not necessarily what a lot of people would consider a balanced beer, and therefore we have to be a little bit tentative with how much praise we give it if that's what you're looking for. But hopefully, you know, if you're after something that's got a bit of bite but a bit of sweetness as well, yeah, actually, it's not a bad one at all. And that really is all I've got to say about it. So as always, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. If you haven't already, subscribe if you would be so kind, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.